Hello everybody, welcome to the Stellantis Report. I am your host, Chris Surratt. On this edition of the Stellantis Report, we'll talk about the latest list of layoffs in the Stellantis plants here in the U.S. We'll also talk about the only place that Stellantis has decided that it's going to not do any layoffs or job cuts. And we'll also talk about their latest investment in EV batteries. First up, let's talk about the latest set of cuts that Stellantis has here. They are always and widely more cuts when it comes to Stellantis in the Michigan area, so let's start there. And of course, we're going to head over to the automotive news and check out their story about these latest layoffs when it comes to a Detroit parts facility in Stellantis. Stellantis laying off 400 workers at Detroit parts facility. And this is from November 8th by Vince Bond Jr. Stellantis laying off about 400 UA represented workers at a Detroit parts sequencing facility to save money. The job cuts at the Freud Street warehouse, which packages parts for two nearby assembly plants, so they arrive at the right time and in the correct order, will take effect as soon as January 5th, Stellantis said. The latest headcount reductions are part of the company's ongoing global cost-cutting effort. Stellantis on November 6 said it would lay off as many as 1,100 workers who built the Jeep Gladiator in Toledo, Ohio in January. We'll talk about that shortly. Stellantis has notified state and local officials of the cuts as required by the Federal Worker Adjustment and Restraining Notification Act, as well as the UAW, which represents the affected employees. As Stellantis navigates a transitional year, the focus is on realigning its U.S. operations to ensure a strong start to 2025. The automaker said in a statement provided to Automotive News, to improve the competitiveness of the operation, the company will transition the Freud Street sequencing facility to a third-party service provider, which will result in indefinite layoffs of approximately 400 represented employees. The warehouse sends parts to Detroit Assembly Complex, where Stellantis builds the Jeep Grand Cherokee and Dodge Durango. In accordance with its 2023 UAW contract, Stellantis said it will provide affected employees with 1 year of supplemental unemployment benefits. Those payments, in combination with any eligible state unemployment benefits, are to equal 74% of workers' current pay. Employees also will get 1 year of transition assistance and 2 years of health coverage. All right. So, as you can see, it continues. Stellantis continues to just implode its U.S. work base, and I don't see it coming to an end anytime soon. We know that they have lost thousands and thousands of jobs, specifically since the UAW Detroit 3 contract situation, and it's nothing that the UAW can do. It's honoring all of its contractual agreements when it comes to letting these people go, and it's just going to have to let them go because the other employees that they're continuing to keep are getting paid a substantial better amount because of the contract that the UAW negotiated, which was a bad contract. Because it is a bad contract because it is allowing it's allowing Stellantis to not only lay off so many of its employees that were UAW members under this contract, and the whole point of the contract was for people to be allowed to keep their jobs, and that is not happening whatsoever. So let's continue. So Stellantis, of course, in that reading, we did see that they said that they're talking about letting go 1,100 employees over at an Ohio plant. Let's check that story out.
13 Action News starts now with breaking news.
Breaking news, more than 1,000 Stellantis workers will lose their jobs in the coming weeks.
These layoffs just announced this afternoon and come as the auto company moves to a one shift for the JT Gladiator line. Those layoffs expected to go into effect as early as January 5th of next year. A message from UAW leadership obtained by 13 Action News says that the layoffs are indefinite for more than 1,100 workers on the Gladiator side. A statement, meanwhile, from a Stellantis spokesperson to 13 Action News says the move from a two-shift to a one-shift operating pattern is in an effort to reduce high inventory levels by managing production to meet sales. It went on to say affected employees will receive a year of supplemental unemployment benefits in combination with eligible state unemployment benefits. That equals about 74% of their pay, along with 1 year of transition assistance and health care coverage that will continue for 2 years.
And it just continues. Now, one of my mentors said recently that if you are in the automotive industry, it is time for you to look elsewhere and start to look for another career because the automotive industry is degrading. And Stellantis is the top of that degradation. It is allowing, and I say allowing, the U.S. automakers that it represents or it's a parent company for to just implode. They saw so many losses. They saw so many dips in sales. They saw so much loss in market share that they're barely making any money whatsoever. And it's affecting the low man, as it always does. It is affecting the factory workers. It's affecting the dealerships. It's affecting the salesmen. It's affecting all of the lowly people that work at the lower points of the auto industry. All the executives, as we've seen for several weeks, are just jumping ship. They're going on to other adventures, other companies, and they decide to get away from Stellantis altogether. But the people who can't get away from Stellantis, the people whose jobs have been with Stellantis their whole lives, and the jobs that they've only known or only prepared for, are going away. And they're going away fast. And if we don't get some new jobs up in here, some new factories, some new opportunity for these people, the degradation of the United States is just going to continue. So, there is one place that Stellantis is refusing to cut jobs or deal with any of these losses. That is overseas. Let's check it out. Stellantis pledges not to close plants or slash jobs in Italy. This is a story from Reuters from November 14th. Stellantis does not plan to close plants or make mass layoffs in Italy, an executive at the automaker said during talks organized by the Italian government to address concerns about the country's car industry. Industry Minister Adolfo Urso hosted the meeting in Rome with industry representatives and trade unions on November 14th as the Italian auto industry grapples with falling output in idle plants, and sales of Stellantis Italian brands Fiat, Alfa Romeo, and Lancia are shrinking. Stellantis does not intend to close any plants in Italy, just as it has no intention of making collective redundancies. Italy Human Resources Manager Giuseppe Manca was quoted as saying in a company statement. Stellantis is facing industry-wide challenges such as low demand for more expensive electric vehicles and competition from China. It is also grappling with bloated U.S. inventories that have led to it to cut profit and cash flow forecasts. The company is Italy's sole major automaker, but its output there is plunging. Last month, the FMCISL union predicted Italian annual vehicle production would fall to under 500,000 units this year, the lowest since 1958. Last week, a trade union source said they expected Stellantis to again pause production at the historic Mirafiori factory in Fiat's hometown of Turin, where the electric Fiat 500 city car and two Maserati sports cars are made. All right. And that, my friends, goes to exactly what I've been saying for a long time. Stellantis has no problem destroying the U.S. automaker market when it comes to the U.S. companies under their branch, but they will go hard to make sure that these companies are still floating and still gaining in Italy. But of course, even in Italy, they're seeing a lot of shrinkage when it comes to market share and desire for their vehicles because they are not putting out a good product. And let's face it, they are not a good company. They have not been doing great market share. And what they really were trying to do was just live off of the advancements or the accreditation or the greatness that they had before. And that was going to be an extremely hard thing to do in this new EV world. The EV world has moved forward and it's taken over such of the market share that most of the cars, most of the older cars, most of the many model cars that they have are not selling like they were. So, for that reason, of course, they had to cut some of the models out. They're going to have to stop making certain models. They're going to have to stop making as many of certain models. And that is really supposed to affect these factories and these factory workers and the desire for these vehicles. But it seems as if it is only affecting the factories here in the U.S. As they show, they're not going to allow it to affect their factories over in Italy, specifically for the Fiats and those vehicles that are made over there, which I understand, Maserati. I understand that. But it still goes to show that they're allowing it to affect the factories here in the U.S. So, real quickly, we're going to check out a little storyline that CBS News Detroit put together about all of these layoffs. And let's see what they had to say.
Then 190 Stellantis employees at the Sterling Heights assembly plant are being laid off. The vast majority are seasonal supplemental employees originally hired to cover those summer vacation vacancies. Stellantis says those layoffs will be effective October 1st.
Now, the remaining layoffs are full-time employees. Stellantis released a statement saying, quote, "We are continuing to take the necessary actions to improve operations across our facilities. This includes ongoing assessments of our manufacturing processes to improve efficiency. And while that effort continues, the company will be implementing indefinite layoffs of represented employees across its footprint." Here to discuss this is editor-in-chief of Headlight.News, Paul Eisenstein. Thanks for being here today.
My pleasure.
So we've heard a little bit of back and forth as of late. Just last week, we heard from Shawn Fain, a little frustrated with Stellantis. What should we make of this whole situation?
The situation at Stellantis is, I think the technical term, a mess. You know, we have seen a real collapse of sales. Their global earnings, which are heavily dependent on North America, were down about 48% for the first half. And some of the biggest hits have come to their biggest brands, Ram and Jeep. And so those are the plants that are being affected most. You may recall about a month ago we heard that they were going to cut, 2,450 jobs, if I remember the exact number, over at Warren. So this is a relatively small cut by comparison. But it just continues to say that Stellantis is in trouble. And in that statement, you may have recalled seeing that they said that there are probably going to be more cuts to come.
Yeah, and if they're trying to trim some fat here, what could be the reason behind that? What's the benefit of them cutting those jobs? Because I'd imagine that they know this won't go well with a lot of those employees, of course, and the public has a way to look at this too.
Oh, it's not going well at all with Shawn Fain, the head of the UAW, and the rest of the union. In fact, you may recall, you guys reported barely a week ago that they're beginning a strike authorization vote. There's a number of things that the union claims that Stellantis is not living up to from the contract last fall when they had another strike. That includes reopening a plant in Illinois, moving forward on things like a new mid-size pickup and all. And it's unusual the degree to which the two sides are shooting at one another. At one point, Stellantis said, hey, stop airing our dirty laundry in public. Let's talk about it at the negotiating table. And by the way, the union isn't the only one ticked at Stellantis. Another one Stellantis has said shut up to are the dealers. Some of their biggest dealers in the country fired an open letter out saying, guys, you got to fix this. And here's the interesting thing. You know who may lose his job, at least according to some of the rumors, is the CEO of Stellantis, Carlos Tavares, who was considered a hero at the time that the Stellantis merger took place between Fiat Chrysler and Francis PSA. He's right now, many people are starting to refer to him more as a zero than a hero.
Wow. So if Shawn Fain's accusations of Stellantis not holding up its end of the deal that they struck last year, if that is found to be true, then what happens?
Well, they have some potential legal opportunities to go after Stellantis. But the other thing, which could probably hurt them even more, would be if they order a strike. And there's a bunch of things that the UAW members are being asked to authorize a strike over. Of course, that doesn't mean there will be a strike, But we know that Sean Fain is a lot more aggressive than recent leaders of the UAW before him. So if there is a reason to strike, yeah, he's going to do it.
We saw that last year.
Yeah, for sure. And we see that the water here is getting a little muddy. What can they do to try to clean up their image and help them with their relationship with those employees?
Well, here's the problem. Stellantis, as I mentioned, is in fiscal trouble. They're not falling apart. It's not like some automakers where they're ready to collapse. But it is a case where they have to start figuring out how to improve the company's operations. They've got to start increasing sales. That's the number one problem. They have seen those two big brands, Jeep and Ram, really slide in the market, even as their competitors, notably Ford, notably General Motors, are increasing sales in the SUV and pickup segments. So they've got to invest more money in new product. They've got to find a way to do their marketing correctly. And that was an area where the CEO, Carlos Tavares, said he made a mistake. He actually came out and said, he told me just a few months ago, that he was a little too arrogant and they made a number of mistakes. So Stellantis has a lot of problems in the marketplace, in the stock market, and in their union relationships.
And you mentioned there will likely be more job cuts to come. Any predictions about what that might look like?
It's hard to tell right now. It's really going to be something where you have to start looking at what's happening at the marketplace level. What products can they simply not get to move? And if they can't start to improve sales, obviously they're going to have to cut at plants producing products that simply aren't moving.
Paul Eisenstein,
thank you for being here.
always appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
It's always good to be proven right, or for somebody just to repeat what you've already stated. And these are facts that we've known for quite some time. And we've known that Tavares is on his way out and they've already started looking for his successor. So this just proves that they don't care about that part of it. They know that Stellantis, more or less, Stellantis will always hold. But they know that they're just going to allow the U.S. automakers under their wing to just implode. And of course, then they'll become what I've always called them, the corporate raiders that they really are. They'll just sell Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep off in parts, probably over to BYD, Lucid, or whoever else would buy them, and then just take the money and run back to Italy. Well, there is one thing he did say, though, is that for them to try to gain some more success back, they're going to have to make some moves. And they've made some moves. They've decided that they were going to partner with EV battery company, and maybe that would help with the ever-growing problem that they have of them losing market share to EV companies. Let's check it out.
You're watching Table for Two, where we speak with industry leaders who champion innovation and drive change. Today we're speaking with Dr. Chris Burns from Novonix. Novonix is a leading battery technology company revolutionizing the global lithium-ion battery industry with innovative, sustainable technologies, high-performance materials, and more efficient production methods. Novonix manufactures industry-leading battery cell testing equipment, is growing its high-performance synthetic graphite material manufacturing operations, and has developed a patented all-dry, zero-waste cathode synthesis process. Today, I'm joined by Chris. Chris, welcome back to the network.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for having me back, and great to be here on the back of such exciting news for the company.
Well, let's get straight into it, Chris. Yeah, absolutely. Big announcement yesterday, and we would really, maybe you can tell us a bit more about the significance of this offtake agreement with Stellantis, and what does it mean for Novonix and the synthetic graphite market in North America?
Absolutely. We're extremely excited to announce this offtake with Stellantis. So this agreement is for a binding volume of about 86,000 tons over a 6-year term to start in 2026 to support Stellantis' cell manufacturing partners here in North America and support local product going into their vehicles. And I think this agreement is monumental not just for Novonix as a company, but really for the North American industry here as we continue to see huge demand for locally produced critical materials. And this being the first time that we know of as an OEM reaching upstream past their cell manufacturing partners to secure synthetic graphite for their operations moving forward.
Now, as I understand it, Stellantis is now Novonix's largest customer. How will this partnership impact Novonix's overall material business strategy and growth plans in the coming years? And how does this deal align with Novonix's broader objectives in onshoring battery material production in North America?
We've been critically focused on growing our anode materials business. Of course, we started this in 2017, focused on cleaner production methods to make high performance grades of materials to support the tier ones and cell manufacturers and automotives. And earlier this year, we announced our offtake agreement with Panasonic Energy. And now on the back of this agreement with Stellantis, we have demand for all of the production that will come from our Riverside facility, which will reach 20,000 tons when both of these agreements are at their full run rate. So it really speaks to the growth in the company being underpinned by the customer demand. Of course, that's what needs to pull us forward as we grow not just into our Riverside facility, but our plans to expand production of anode material into a new greenfield facility and beyond as we continue to see huge growth in this sector for this decade and beyond.
And the agreement outlines a supply commitment of up to 115,000 tonnes of synthetic graphite material from 26 to 31. What are the key challenges and milestones Novonix needs to meet to ensure this target volume is met, Chris?
The offtake agreements that we've negotiated with customers, such as Panasonic, such as Stellantis, all have conditions which are really quite ordinary course. We have worked with these companies to look at our production and products from our pilot line, understanding their specifications, their requirements, their scale-up timelines, and we have to meet those expectations as we build out. And most notably, we have to finish the qualification of our products from our mass production facility. And this is something that really sets Novonix apart, as Riverside will start production early next year and be able to provide these full mass production samples leading into our start of production for Panasonic in late 2025. And we really view this as being about 2 years ahead of anyone else here in the North American industry looking to develop a project for producing synthetic graphite. And so as we walk through the rest of this year and 2025, we'll be critically focused on our product qualifications and quality program milestones, which are needed both for Panasonic and Stellantis.
Gotcha. And with synthetic graphite production being crucial for EV battery performance, how does Novonix ensure that its product meets the quality and performance standards required by the major battery and automakers?
This is a significant undertaking, right? The product quality requirements for these customers are very high because graphite is such a critical material in defining the performance of the batteries, both in cycle life and in charge rate and other characteristics. And so it really speaks back to our process and product development, which we've invested significantly into over the past number of years, and now are ready to bring those products to mass production. The next phase will be a shift in focus to our quality programs, which will be built out within our Riverside facility. And of course, working with great partners such as Panasonic, such as Stellantis and their cell manufacturing partners are going to ensure that we're starting our first production site with industry-leading standards from a quality position, because that's what's required for the electric vehicle space.
Now, I will say that it's fantastic news. It proves that Stellantis is doing some investing in American industries. They're doing some investigation, as it were, into the future of EVs, where it comes down to the production of batteries. Now, having graphite and not having the ability to make the batteries, that is a whole nother story. But the positive effect would be that the next step would be to have a battery plant here that can make the batteries using the graphite from Novonix, and more jobs for Americans, la-da-da-da-da. That's what we love. So, if that's the road that this is headed down, we applaud it, we desire it, we hope it's a great thing. We appreciate that in this situation, Stellantis is investing in an American company that will proceed to lead to them into the future when it comes to EV and the production of these lithium batteries that we need for these EV vehicles that we're going to almost have to purchase in the near future. So, this sounds like a fantastic thing. Sounds like a great thing coming out of the annals of Stellantis. But we all know the truth. We hope that this is not just a ploy, and it probably is, just a ploy to show that they are trying to do something positive when it comes to the plants and the Stellantis effort here in the U.S. But for me, I would think that it's just a ploy. It's just that a ploy to show buyers that Stellantis is moving forward and that the EV future may be a little bit brighter at Stellantis if they continue to make these sort of moves. So we can hope that they continue to make these sort of moves, and it's a beautiful thing. And we will always stay positive because we have to. This is our U.S. automakers industry. These are our U.S. automaker workers, and we have to stay positive so that they stay positive, that they'll continue to be able to make a living and survive here in the U.S. as it comes to working with the U.S. automakers, in particular, Stellantis. All right, my friends, I'm Chris Surratt. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Stellantis Report. We will do this weekly until, well, probably forever, because I don't see Stellantis not having problems or making moves. And we will be here to report it. I'm your host, Chris Surratt, and I'm out. Please like, share, and subscribe. Peace.